in the state of Texas, I can count 9 districts that have went and canceled their online learning and moved to in-person. There were districts that started off the beginning of the year that were in-person only. And so the first comment that I'd like to make is that since the start of school, we have been tremendously successful in that we have had no school spread of COVID. If you look back even further than that into the UIL Strength and Conditioning Program, not only did we not have any school spread of COVID June, July, but across the state of Texas, over 60,000 athletes participated in the summer strength and conditioning, and there was 4 cases out of 60,000 that was school spread. And so schools are doing an outstanding job. The reason that schools are made up of people who execute plans. In our case, our faculty, staff, parents, and community has done an outstanding job of following our planning forward document that's on our website. So much to the degree that we have had positive cases that were spread outside of school in situations like birthday parties. The last week, we had 3 cases of our in-person learners test positive for COVID at that time. There were 3 active cases, I should say. There were also 3 lines online cases that tested positive for COVID. So when I start off this evening, I just want to start off with the point of, at this point, we talked about early when we were drafting the planning forward document that we were going to lead with even if leadership instead of what if leadership. And so we've had obstacles, we've had challenges through this, but what I can say unequivocally is we have a plan in our district that is executed, it works. And so for the risk level and the mitigation factors of students being on campus, this makes sense. What I'm saying, I see and understand that everyone will not be happy with my recommendation. But I'm also a parent, I'm an employee, and I'm the spouse of an employee as well. And I have sent my personal child into school every day because I believe in our plan and I believe in our people here and the mitigation that we can take care of whatever comes our way. I'm also bound by the Educator Code of Ethics. In essence, what the Educator Code of Ethics says is we shall do no harm to children. And that brings me to my next topic. We have 500 plus students that are currently lines online. On your desk, there is a document that looks like this that has the failure rate of each grade level broken out by campus. If you take just a minute to look at that, it's astonishing. When our Lines Online signed up, and we started the year off with Lines Online, 70% of the Lines Online was economically disadvantaged kids, and 50% of those online learners were at risk before we ever got a day of school off. Okay? So that was the makeup. Half of our Lines Online were at risk, and 75% of them was economically disadvantaged. If you look at these failure rates, they are astonishing. And that's why I say that not only are we fighting the COVID slide from last semester, and every year we have a summer slide of regression for our students. And it is exponentially greater for students who are economically disadvantaged. By TEA's own data, they lose up to 55%. AJ Gabriel, I read an email today by AJ, who's a deputy commissioner at the Texas Education Agency, that says regression in economically disadvantaged kids, he cited a study, that they're predicting right now there's 2 to 3 years of regression in our children today. So that's why this alarms me. And with that said, let me give you the caveat of this. I also sat in on a regional superintendent call today and talked with some of the districts and why they went away from online learning and went back to in-person. Obviously, if we can't take care of our teachers, we'll never be able to take care of our students. And our teachers are spread extremely thin. And the question that I have gotten is, Dr. Hawkins, why do you not have a virtual teacher? It's because of the scale of staffing. When you have a district that is our size that does not have 50% or greater virtual learners, you can't go completely virtual. We, in our staffing and the ability to put lines online and lines in person, cannot dedicate virtual teachers to every student. It's mathematically impossible, okay? So we roughly have about 12% of our student body that is online, but our teachers are spread thin, and I give principals the directive to have teachers understand they cannot teach 8 hours a day, go home and teach our online learners 8 hours a day, maintain freshness, maintain mental health, and maintain a positive family atmosphere at their home. And so my directive to them was talk to your staff and get them to understand that when the online learners signed up, there was some things that they agreed to. The first thing that they agreed to was to have high-speed internet access. The second thing that they agreed to was that there would be support in the house to an adequate level to take care of the student and guide them through this process. It's still on our website. It's a one-page document, a side-by-side of lines on in person and lines online. So, with that said, those superintendents that I talked to today said not only is their staff excited that their learners are coming back to them, but they were struggling doing a good job in either place because they were so torn between supporting the home and supporting the in-person learners. And so, you know, I want to reiterate, some of the districts were doing 3 styles. They were doing synchronous, asynchronous, and in-person. And some of them are starting to scale back and say, hey, we're going to stop synchronous and we're going to only do asynchronous, okay? And so everybody's grappling with this. This is not unique to Livingston. As I told you, I know of 9 districts. I know Big Sandy, I know Leggett, I know Louise, I know Whitesboro, I know Huntington, I know Moody. There are several districts that have already considered this, and there are several districts that are in the hopper. I see where Iola has a board meeting. I see where Kennard has a board meeting. And so you're starting to see a shift in the state away from this. What really alarms me, though, is, you know, we're knocking on the door of being halfway through a semester, and especially these high school learners here losing credit because some of them are extremely low in what their score is and are facing a real impossible feat in order to get credit for this semester. So the longer we wait exponentially, we're going to have larger and larger problems with these at-risk students. The second thing is I've provided you with a letter that would go home to the online learners to kind of lay out what is there and what we're trying to accomplish and what their options are. Okay? The first question that you will ask, or that you will probably get asked if you would vote for this, would be, my child is medically fragile. Okay? we have a plan for students who are medically fragile. And I say that with all sincerity, that we have some students that we're taking care of very successfully right now in our school that is medically fragile. But we do have a plan for students who are medically fragile. And we will take care of those students meeting their needs on a case-by-case basis. So aside from that, the thing is, though, fear is not a reason anymore to put students into a situation that they're not going to be successful. We do not have the supports enough to make our students successful over a long-term continuum. And so the options that students would be faced with is, number one, we want them to come back to school. We want them to get in person with our faculty and staff. However, the state, under reason of our attorneys, have said that we need to list all of their options. Well, enroll in a private school. That's very difficult for a socioeconomically disadvantaged child, is to enroll in a private school. Another option would be that they can transfer to another district that's doing online learning. The problem with that is those that are failing, every district that takes transfers do not take transfers that are not successful. They're not going to take transfers that are failing. Okay? And so that's really not an option either. The only other option would be to join a homeschool group or movement. And I would caution folks about doing that, in the respect that if you do come back, then you're going to have to test into the proficiency of the grade level in which you would be placed. So you can't just set out in homeschool and then show back up and go on with your class. There's some policies and things that we would work through in that situation, but that's not an option that I would choose for my child. We need our lines back here. We need them to where they are back with our teachers, who make a difference and inspire those that we serve.